What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast, where we share the success stories of veterans that have successfully unlaced the boots. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms and give us a follow on the gram at the Six Figure Vet.
I'm a
Let's
six-figure
go.
vet, self-made, self-built, didn't stop, dedicated, stayed down till I came up, that's patience. Dreaming to goals to plans to execution.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast, where we showcase the success stories of Black and Brown veterans that have successfully unlaced the boots. Today's guest is the oh so talented and relatable Leslie Latrice. Leslie
Period.
is a seasoned veteran and lifestyle creator who passionately champions convenience and excellent service in all aspects of her life. With the impressive following of 159,000 people across all social media platforms combined, she has fostered a community built on empowerment and shared joy. Now, our good sis has been mentioned and featured in some of the hottest magazines from Sheen, Essence, and Voyage ATL. Leslie just didn't start shaking things up when she became a content creator. She was also recognized in the Army for her defense expertise while deployed in Kuwait in 2015 to 2016 and her HR skills during her deployment to Poland and Germany. Let's give a big welcome to our favorite convenience coach and homemaker homegirl, Leslie Latrice.
Yes, girl, come with it. Yeah. Thank you so much. What is good?
Yes. So I always like to start the episode with doing a mental health check-in. So how are you for real, for real?
Baby, I am tired, boss. Okay. It's super tired. No, I'm tired, but I feel like in all the right ways for all the right reasons,
Yeah.
But overall, like my spirit is good. I'm feeling really good. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing really, really good. You know what? Walking in your purpose is very tiresome. It
Oh,
is
we
very
baby.
tiresome,
But like I
but
said,
it's so rewarding.
it is so bad. And I haven't been in this space like like this. Like when you just know, like
Yes,
there's parts of it that you know is a part of the journey, but
yes.
then you have the space you're in where you know like this is gonna get you to, like you said, your purpose, God's purpose for you. Like this is it. So yeah, I feel good. I feel good, tired, but I feel good.
You deserve to be tired. You deserve to be
Amen.
tired for all the work that you put in, okay?
Period.
So tell us what you were doing prior to joining the Army. Who was Leslie Latrice prior to Army, prior to content creation? Where are you from? Give us a little bit of backstory.
Okay, well, I am from Sumter, South Carolina, Merck City. I represent my city all day. Yes, girl. I'm from Sumter, South Carolina. That's been home whenever my mom would come home because she was military too. So my grandparents lived there. So that was always like our home away from home. So I represent Sumter, South Carolina because I knew that to be home versus, every other place we lived in for only a few years or a select period of time. So yeah, I'm from Sumter and I went to the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina for college. And while I was there, I was in the real estate, I guess, sort of leasing industry. So I was a leasing agent while there and also a resident mentor while in school. And I did ROTC also while I was in school. So I did that for all 4 years. And then I guess while I was there, I was really just learning myself. I was in a relationship then, so that was consuming along with school. And it was just a process, to really trying to find who I was at the time. But one thing that hadn't changed is that your girl is an outgoing spirit. I wouldn't say life of the party, but baby, it's a vibe when I'm around. And
We could tell.
I just love being around people. Like being around people is what brings me energy, is what brings me happiness. Like just engaging with different, diverse, good people with good energy. So I think that that's a part of me. And, my personality is also what sets me apart, which is, a very outgoing spirit. So, yeah.
You know what? Let's see. I love that because in today's society, it's like people be ashamed to say they're extroverted. It's like, baby, it's okay to say you like people.
Period.
It is okay to say that you are a people's person.
And that is all right. And I feel like too, it's like people don't understand that you can be holistically extroverted but have introverted parts of you. So
Yes.
like I'm an indoors girly. Like if you, as much as I do like to be around people in this current season I'm in, it's like you kind of gotta almost invite me out or something has to be going on for me to come out the house. Because my little home is like my little haven. Like I
I
said,
know
home
that's
making
right.
home girl. Like
I
I
know
love
that's
being in my
right.
space. You feel me? So yeah.
So you were in ROTC. Is that kind of what directed your path to the Army? And so were you an officer?
I would.
Oh, period. Okay. First
Hey,
officer on the Six Figure Vet podcast.
hey, period. Love that for me.
Yeah, we've been cut up this whole time. So tell us what it was like being an officer in the Army.
Me. So let me backpedal a little bit. So my mom, like I said, my mom was military, but
Right.
she was enlisted Army. My granddad was enlisted Army, and I think my uncle, he was the only one that went officer, but he was in the Navy. So I was the first female officer in my family, like in my immediate family, that I know of to join the Army. And my mom, she made it apparent, like she was like adamant about us all doing JROTC, so ROTC in high school. And I did it for all 4 years, but it was Air Force. So I had, every intention on going into the Air Force. And then I didn't I, the test taking, baby, it was a little struggle. So I didn't really do what I need to do on the ACT to qualify for like the Air Force scholarship. And I missed the opportunity to get the Army scholarship for ROTC. So I had to compete for my scholarship for the first 2 years while I was in ROTC. And then after that, junior, senior year, I got my scholarship and then I commissioned. But to answer your question, I I don't really have anything to compare it to except for the fact that I did do the National Guard for like a year and a half while I was in ROTC. Um, and so at that point, I was a cadet, but still like compensated like an E5.
Yes.
So I had that experience because majority of people around me were enlisted, but I wouldn't say that was like the true enlisted experience because I didn't have to go to basic or anything like that.
So when you commission out of ROTC from college, you don't do basic training.
No, but there is a basic leader course you have to go through over the summer, like the summer of your junior year. At that time, it was called LDAT. I went in December of 2014,
Okay.
and but it's also called BOLIC A or BOLIC 1. And then once you commission, you'll go to BOLIC 2, which is where you learn how to do your job. So after you commission, you'll go through this long, extensive training, almost like the equivalent to AIT for the Army
Okay.
side, but it's like I think I did like 17 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, that's AIT.
Yeah, so that was my experience. But I will just say, I mean, to answer your question, it was like, what was my experience like as an officer? I would say that I wouldn't have went about my military career any other way
Yeah.
than being an officer because I felt like it was almost like, especially being a lieutenant, a double-edged sword. Like you were fresh and new, like a private, right? Like a private straight out of school.
Yeah.
But you had so much responsibility. Like I was
Yeah.
responsible for all of my enlisted team. I think I had like 4 or 5 people, enlisted soldiers that I was responsible for. But the expectation is that you just come in and you should, know
Yeah, you're an
everything. And
officer.
yeah,
Get to
right.
it.
And no one truly knows like how long you've been in, what was your prior experience,
Yeah.
none of that. So you just have these like unwarranted or just
Expectations.
instilled expectations about your leadership capabilities. That
Yeah.
is a lot of pressure, like a lot of pressure to kind of get it right. And especially as a Black female, and I joined, my first unit was a field artillery unit, so I was in a combat arms unit. And for the longest, at least a year and a half, I was the only Black female in my unit, female officer in my unit. So I didn't really have that mentorship. I didn't have a lot of people to bounce things off of. Like,
Yeah, you literally just going with the flow and winging it like, I'm
yeah,
just out here.
trying to figure it out. Yes, it's crazy. It had a lot of great moments. Because I met a lot of really, really good people throughout. Because I was in for 9 years total, 7.5 active officer. But yeah, no, it was of course with anything you remember the really like down bad side of
Of
things,
course
right?
you do. Why is that a thing? Like, why do I remember my depression so vividly?
Oh my God. Then and like I remember when I like first deployed, like my whole body was like not mine. Like it was just so crazy. All these like moments, and it's kind of hard to pull out the like greatness of it, but all I know is like the great part about my experience was the people. It will always and forever be the people that I interact with and the people that I continue to build and have relationships with that I've met throughout my career. Yeah.
So, Leslie, you work in chemical defense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is that?
So, so basically, it's where, as an officer, you advise your commander on chemical, biological, nuclear, and um, radiological defense strategy. So, in the event that there's those type of attacks or anything related to those things while deployed, or even, and it could be even stateside, you're responsible for communicating how you can protect those troops, those people in the best way, and also obviously still posture the unit to be successful, right? So like
Right.
the goal isn't to have them like stuck in a corner not doing their job. Like how can we still defend ourselves and also still do our jobs? So that
Yes.
was my responsibility as a chemo, and I did that for a field artillery unit, both forward deployed and in garrison, so back stateside.
Now, how did that end up relating to? Well, I guess now knowing that you were an officer, okay, tie your amazing HR work that you were able to do in Germany and Poland into that.
Okay. So when I when I commissioned in ROTC, there was an option called branch detail. It was an option called branch detail where I could spend the first like 3 to 4 years as a chemical officer. And then when I went to Triple C, which was captain's career course where I was promoted to captain, I could then transition into human resources.
Okay.
So at that time, your girl was not trying to go back home. That was at the time we was just coming out of recession. I was like, baby, I need the best options to make sure I go active duty, right? And
Yes.
branch detailing was, from what was communicated to me, was one of the surefire ways that I could get active duty. So I chose chemical, and then I transitioned into HR. What 3 or 4? Yeah, 3 years into my career. But I think the correlation between the two is that honestly, as an officer, and even as an enlisted soldier, you're always doing admin. Like you're always, you got evals, you know, you
Yep.
got accountability, you
Yep.
got awards you got to submit. Like there's
And right.
always there is always HR, and I'm sure in every, you know, soldier's responsibility, a little bit of it anyway. And so especially as an officer, I was doing plenty of evals, submitting awards and all that great stuff. But when I was deployed, I knew that I was coming up that year. I was going to be added to the promotion list. So, which meant that shortly thereafter, I was going to go to Captain's Career Course. And one thing about me, baby, is I want to be as prepared as I can be. And I didn't go to HR school, right? Like right out of college. I went to chemical bowling. So now I'm gonna be in Triple C with all of these already HR
Yep.
savvy
Oriented
folks.
people. Yep.
Right. So I was like, I want to at least have some idea. I knew I wasn't gonna be like the smartest there, you know, in all these different systems and things like that.
Right.
But I wanted to at least have some idea about, you know, what I could do. So basically, while the last half of my deployment in Poland, I dual had it as the chemo and the S1 assistant, which was technically a made up position, but I had two responsibilities. And the main one at that time was the S1 assistant. And I requested it from my battalion commander when we did our performance review, or our OER, my OER. Which was my evaluation. When we did that, I asked him, could I do that in to prepare me for Triple C? And he granted my request. So I ended up moving into the HR role while deployed in Poland.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was essentially assisting the S1. So we had, you know, events that needed to be planned, um, different daily accountability, right? For those of us who were forward deployed, especially in different locations. We had a few different units that were spread out amongst
Right. So you were
Poland,
gainfully
Germany.
employed.
Yeah, no, I was definitely in the systems. That was when Emilpo was popping before I think the new, I can't remember, IPSE, before that system came about. Um but yeah, no, I definitely was in the mix. And then shortly after we came back around May, I kind of closed out with that unit, and I moved into the battalion S1 role. And I don't know, what was I can't remember, but I was assisting, I know I was assisting the battalion, or excuse me, the brigade. I moved to brigade, the brigade S1. And I can't remember what my role was at the time, but I did that for a few months before I PCS'd, or um, moved to Columbia at Fort Jackson to go to HR. So I think they correlated in the way that I was able to do both.
Yeah.
And then it really just helped me to learn more about what I would be doing in the future. Less chemo, more HR.
HR.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, Leslie, recently you did a YouTube video on the Guard Act and
Mm-hmm.
kind of explain to the followers what that is. Because in the video, you stated you had a whole team behind you to guide you through your process. But a lot
Yeah.
of times, military service members, they don't have that. So what advice would you give to the listeners that are going through that same process or trying to file for their disability? Especially, I think you talked about your dad,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
how they basically cheated him out of his retirement. Like,
Girl.
so what advice would you give to military members that are going through that process where they're about to add board out or med board out, and they're just kind of like, because they throw that at you fast. Like
Want
once
to
that
tell
process
you.
starts, it's just like doop 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 doop.
Right. So, whew, okay. So I know there's, and I talked a little bit about it. That video we're talking about, the Guard Act, was sponsored, and I was limited in the time that I could, you know, spit out all the information that I really wanted to. But the GUARD Act, just to talk about GUARD Act, and then we'll talk about what I recommend. But the GUARD Act is basically where legislation is wanting to pass a law that removes the good actors and the bad actors that facilitate service members in filing VA claims. Because as you know, like it's super complicated, bureaucratic, and like it's just a very difficult system or challenging system to understand.
Yes.
And honestly, my thought about it is it's kind of like 50-50, because yeah, you get rid of the people who are exploiting our veterans, right? The people who are trying to gain a lot of money from helping veterans get their rightfully due benefits. But then you also get rid of the unaccredited good actors, like the people who actually care.
Yes.
So it's a double-edged sword, and I think there should maybe be some fail safes versus like just getting rid of unaccredited persons or organizations who are trying to facilitate veterans. Um, but that is what the GUARD Act is, and what they're trying to do is basically get rid of unaccredited agencies that are trying to help or facilitate veterans to file their VA claims.
So is it only geared towards the ones that are charging money to do this, or is it all of them?
I didn't see that it was based off of funds, but I think that that is probably a very major role, because
Yeah.
what I did research is that there was a lawsuit, and it originated in North Carolina, um, and about this particular situation. And in my mind, I feel like it is based in money, but I can't like speak intelligently about if the whole thing is based off of that, or if it's more of like they're gaming the system, like maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of both, as if like we're claiming things that may not be true about our
Yeah, it's like
health,
kind
and
of
like
coercing. Are you coercing veterans to say things just to
to get extra their increased percentage versus like
yes,
what they actually have
this is wrong with them?
wrong with them, right? So I think it's a little bit of both.
That really
um
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I think it has potential, but it has potential on both sides to me. Like it cuz then that's where, personally we're talking about my dad, and I'm like, he's very distressing of even the accredited folks who should be helping
Yeah,
him, right?
like
So
the
it's like,
VSOs.
so it's like, do I want to agree with a this act that could potentially limit his resources and what, he could potentially get back now that this, I mean, if this law does
Goes
go into
through.
place. Yeah, so I still haven't like grounded myself in my current stance. I do think it is kind of like double edged, but I wanted to put that information out there because that's my, that's personal a little bit. That's my
That's
dad,
very
and
personal.
he deserves every bit of and some for what he's been through in the military. He served 22 years. He's deployed. He's recruited. He's injured. Like he has conditions, and I'm just like, he should be sitting pretty in somebody's beach right now, based
Most
off of
definitely. Most
But yeah,
definitely.
to answer your question about what I recommend. So, I definitely, for one, is to take care of yourself. Like a lot of us feel like if we go to the doctor or if we complain about our injuries or things like that, that we're going to be perceived as weak or unable to cut it or not able to keep up. And I just think that there's weakness in not doing it. Like,
So
so I would say that's the first thing, is to go to the doctor. One, to take care of yourself, but two, because to file claims,
gotta have the backing.
you got to have the documentation that states that you went to the doctor for this issue. These were the results, etc.
And go again. And go
And multiple
again.
times,
And go again.
like keep going. And that's period. Like you have to show that this is an issue for you, and or that is preventing you from being able to execute your job and duties at 100%. Right. So that's really how you get your 100%, because you're degraded. You know what I'm saying? Like, something is degrading you from being able to put all of that effort into doing your job and serving. So definitely say that going to the doctor is important. Maintain your records. Okay.
Yes.
Like, 1,000 times over, know how to access your records and everything like that. And I mean in your own like personal storage, because anything could happen, right? Like with these
Right.
military systems. And like, back in the day, my mom, my dad, like they didn't have like these digital things that helped to
Keep
gather all
things
their
together.
information.
Yeah.
They had to keep paper copies. And I still at least recommend you keeping something on your own
Girl,
device.
I got my medical record that's this thick sitting in my closet,
Girl.
and it's gonna stay there.
And Will, I'm not getting rid of none of it. And when I
Nothing at
left,
all.
I got to put on a CD. CD
Me
is
too.
in storage. Yeah, no, all of it. All from 2013 to now, baby. Y'all are not going to tell me that the
Yeah, I
things
need
I
the
went to
whole
the doctor.
thing.
No, yeah.
The
So
whole thing.
definitely, definitely maintain your records. And on the mentorship side, like, reach out to people that you've known have done, have exited or filed claims, and just seek their guidance. The more the merrier, because
Very
then
much
you can
so.
discern, how you should move.
Yes.
And as best as you can, get into the doctrine um behind how they do the ratings. Very just overwhelming as
Yes.
far as terminology, I'd say, for the
Yes.
document. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you know somebody in the VA, or if you know somebody who's gotten out, like, take your take your questions and concerns there, especially before filling out your paperwork. Like, you want to make sure that you're filling it out.
If you don't want to go through one of the people that are not certified, please, please, please. First of all, if you're 6 months prior to getting out, really 8 months. If you're
Yeah, for
8
sure.
months prior to getting out, you need to start going to medical and requesting your paperwork, because it's going to take them 6 to 8 weeks to generate it.
For sure.
At 6 months, you can start your filing. They have a program, I think it's called the BDD program, and you can now start filing your disability claim while you're still in. I did that. So a lot of times I have veterans come to me like, hey, how do I do this? I've been out for X amount of years. I don't have any benefits. I am not, my expertise is mental health, transition, helping you
Right.
create successful plans. I don't know how to file a claim. I
Right.
started my claim while I was still in, and I feel like it's easier that way because you still have some access.
Yes, and you can still go back to the doctor, right?
And you
Like,
can
you
still
can
go back.
still,
What?
yes, like,
Yes.
you can still advocate for your current health at the time.
Yes, you can.
But I definitely, like you were saying, like, start as early as possible if you know you're intending to transition, if you're medically boarding and that happens. Like, for me, I did have that team, but this team is also trying to help all these other people too. So when I had my meetings with my med board counselor, and or my MEB counselor and my paralegal, because I think I had a paralegal and an MEB counselor that were assigned to, like, those of us in my duty station that were med boarding. I sat there the whole time. And I came prepared with my questions. We're gonna go through every piece of paper line by line so that I understand, and you're going to explain it so that I understand. If I don't understand, then tell me where I can get
Explain it
more
to me.
information, like, so that I can understand. So continue to advocate for your own understanding, so you're
Yes.
not submitting things, you have time, like, and take the time. Like, you are on a time crunch, but it's ample enough time for you to get the information that you need to file an effective claim, like one that truly accounts for your holistic health altogether, and to where you can gain understanding on the process. So definitely, if you're med boarding, leverage your team, the team that you are given, because you are given a few other resources that those who are separating don't have or may not have priority access to. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So Leslie, when you start, and also guys, I will be linking that YouTube video for the Guard Act, Leslie's YouTube video, in the show notes, so you can go get more information from her sponsored video, and also hear her perspective and how she ended up separating from the military. So make sure you check out the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
So you met board out, and what was your plan? Were you already creating content, or were you just like, girl, I'm finna thug this out? What's going on?
Whew,
What was
baby.
your idea? Like, especially for a Met board, because that's kind of sudden.
No, it definitely is. So I was creating content since 2016. So shortly after my Kuwait deployment, I started on YouTube, and then I transitioned to kind of, I was already on Instagram, but Instagram started turning into more of like the content creator space
Yeah.
in 2019. So 3 years basically YouTube, and then furthermore 2019 other social platforms. So I've been doing this for a while. I integrated my military career into my content back in 2019, well, actually 2017, because your girl was not trying to make that known. It was taboo at the time, right? Like, I didn't see a lot of military creators out there,
It
especially
wasn't.
Black women
There was not.
officers. Yeah,
There
so
was not.
like, let's talk about this, y'all. And like I said, I was in a male dominated unit. So I'm like, they used to like get big eyes when I would come to the hail and farewells looking beat. You know what I'm saying? Like, act like it. I'll go to sleep in my uniform type stuff. So I was like, I don't even want y'all to really know about it.
I don't want y'all
But
to know me.
right, no, not outside of that, because they didn't care outside of it, right? Like, wasn't nobody inviting me to go to get a drink at the bar after work or hang out or whatever. So why would I be putting kind of my personal stuff out there? It was
Yeah.
not. It was very much more, in my opinion, professional environment, except for the people who actually made an effort to learn me personally, and that's where those people kind of knew about the YouTube. But on the deployment, I had to kind of expose myself because I couldn't do the same content that I was doing back home in Poland. I was living in a tent, and we were able to travel. So yeah, no, a tent with no insulation. Okay, I was
Like, you
cold.
ain't got no outlet.
We did have outlets. We did have outlets, but it
Okay.
was like it was like a tent, like there was no kind of anything keeping wind from like flapping the tents. There was ventilation, but not insulation. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had heat, AC, all that stuff, but it was like
It's a
it was
tent.
a tent. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, because we were the first people at that in that area in Torrance, so we were the first people there. So we didn't have a full on buildings or anything. But anyway, so when we were traveling, that's when I kind of converted to vlogs, because I couldn't do like a lot of beauty, all that stuff. So I was just kind of communicating about my experience in Poland as a Black woman too, because 2% of their population is people of color. Everybody else is European.
Anglo-Saxon.
So yeah, so they was like, anyway, yeah, uh so yeah, I started creating and continued to create all throughout my career. And when I started the med board process, I didn't feel confident enough in my revenue stream as a creator to want to pursue that full time. So I decided that I wanted to secure a job. Like, I didn't know what, right? Like, and I did the resume. Like, I was one of those ones who wasn't super sure about how to convert my experience to civilian terminology and like what is going on. It's difficult, because what is different about being on the civilian side is like all the business structures aren't the same. Everything that an HR specialist for this company may not have the same responsibilities as an HR specialist from the next company. So it was a little bit of a challenge to try to convert my experience, because I also was a chemo, right? So that was safety oriented, HR, um, the HR professional, and then I'm a content creator. So it was a lot of different avenues I could leverage, but I wasn't quite sure which one was going to help me sustain, right, and be secure. So I pushed for the HR side of it. And I ended up somehow uh, finding this company called Alliance that helps place junior officers into corporate America. So I looked up, honestly, in that
They
experience,
still around?
because they are, and they actually help enlisted soldiers too now. I
Amazing.
didn't know that before, but somebody asked me about it last year, and a recruiter from their team had commented on my Instagram and said that they do facilitate enlisted soldiers. So that is an opportunity, if you're thinking about separating from the
Alliance, go ahead
Army.
and sponsor this video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, seriously. Sorry about that, girl. My bad. But I didn't want to like not say that, because
Yeah, but it's
that was
needed.
how I
It's
got
needed
placed.
because when you're getting out, you don't know which way to turn to. You don't know which way to turn to. And the resources, it's like, I don't know if they're gate kept
They're out there.
or the
Like,
marketing's just terrible for them.
they're there. It's just not, I hate to say that they're not helpful, because it's almost like it's not enough. It's not enough of it as far as individual help. It's very much tailored to the overall community of transitioning service members,
Yeah.
versus can we get sort of like this mentorship
Yeah.
organization to where I can have someone that dedicates time to helping me on a consistent basis transition out, like step by step. Help me with my resume, help me with interviews. Hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you give me mental health resources? Can
Yeah.
like
That's
a
not
full blown there, it's not really out there. Like, it's not, well, from what I've researched, I have not seen that. So
me neither. And I always say it feels like when you're getting out, the VA and the military, they give you all these tools to build this house, but then they give you no instruction. So it's like, yeah, I have all this stuff, but I don't know what the hell to do with this.
I don't use none of it. Like, I
I don't know.
did it. Yeah, no, you are spot on with that. They give you the tools, but it doesn't really help you to activate them, right? Like,
Right.
I have them, they're there, all right. And then they just expect us to go on our own devices, and we're able to figure it out because we have them there. But that's just like having a toolbox, and you don't know how to use what's in it, right?
How
Like,
to
you
drive no
got it.
forklift? What you give me this for?
What you get me this for? I'm not licensed. I don't know what to do. That's facts. Like, no, it is. That's the part. Like, it should be dual, right? Like, give
Yes.
me the tools, but also set me up and set conditions for me to be successful using the tools you provided. And I don't think that is driven home as much for transition service members, for sure.
If you are a veteran, active duty service member, or civilian that is currently in a mental health crisis or suffers from mental health issues, please dial 988. Trained crisis responders are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the calls are completely confidential. Again, that number is 988. Veterans and service members, press 1. You don't have to suffer anxiety.